Okay, good morning. It is 10:30. We are scheduled to begin, so let's go ahead and get started. This session is What's New in Explorer for ArcGIS. I am Scott Ball. This is Heather McCracken, and we're going to kind of walk you through the product today. How many people use Explorer already today? A handful. Okay. This is going to kind of be a joint introduction session and a what's new session. So we're going to walk you through what the product is. So if you're not using it today, you'll get kind of an overview of how we think about the product, the things that it can do. And then we're going to get into what's new over the last year or so in Explorer for ArcGIS. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. And we're going to start kind of at the top. And we're going to give you an overview of how we think about field operations apps at Esri. So Explorer is not the only one. It is one of several apps that we think of in a suite of applications that help our users and our customers do field operations better. So we think about this in kind of a workflow. How do people do field operations? There's a number of things you need to do if you're doing field operations. First thing you need to do is plan your work. And so we have applications that can help you plan your work and do that better. Things like Workforce for ArcGIS. After you've planned your work, you figured out what you need to do, you've made your assignments, your people need to get out into the field. The next phase is navigating to those assignments. And so we have an application called Navigator for ArcGIS that gives you voice-guided turn-by-turn directions that helps you get where you're wanting to go. Once you're kind of out in the field to actually find the things that you're looking for, the assets that you might be inspecting, or generally just understand what's going on around you. In the event of events, you might want to know what's the current operational picture, what's going on around me. For those kind of things, we help you understand what's around you with apps like Explorer for ArcGIS, which we're going to be talking about today. Once you're out there, you've found your asset, you've gotten to your asset, you actually want to do some work, you do some work, and then you want to capture some data about that work that you did. That's kind of the next phase, and that's capturing data. And we have a couple apps that help you with that. We have Collector for ArcGIS, which helps you capture map-based information while you're out in the field. We also have Survey 123, which helps you capture form-based information while you're out in the field. And finally, while you or your field workers are out there doing the work, you might have people back in the office that want to see what's going on out in the field in real time or near real time. And in that case, we help you monitor what's going on out in the field with applications like Operations Dashboard. We also have a new product coming out called Tracker for ArcGIS that helps you understand who's out in the field, where they are, what they've been doing. And so Tracker also helps you monitor your resources out in the field. So this is kind of our high-level overview. We really see a lot of uptake of our field operations apps in the utilities space, natural resources, and government are kind of our big three where we're focusing. So it might help you kind of think about how and where you want to deploy these field operations apps. So with that said, we do have all of these different apps that help you do jobs in the field. We don't build one monolithic app that does everything. Our strategy at Esri is to build focused applications that help you do a job or a task very well. And so this has a number of advantages to do it this way. You can use the apps that make sense for you. You don't have to use the entire big monolithic app that has pieces that you may not want to use or may not make sense for your workflows. You can use the pieces that make sense for the workflows that you have in your organization. Or if you have your own applications that do pieces of that field operations workflow, we've built in ways to integrate with our applications so that you can use your applications and our applications together in a somewhat smooth, seamless way. So we have a couple different patterns of ways that you can enhance your workflows by pairing these applications together. You can start in Workforce, which is our task management app. You can assign tasks and then launch out into things like Collector or Survey 123, or if you need to navigate out to one of your tasks, you can kick out into Navigator. You can do field workflow preparations. You can start in Pro. You can do all your assignments and you can do all your planning there and then push things out into applications like Explorer or Navigator or Collector, whatever you need to get the job done. We also have these integrations, I'll talk a little bit more about it later, that let you really build your custom app and fire off any of these applications that we have and launch them as part of your kind of seamless workflow. So we have a whole bunch of different ways that you can kick these things off together to get your work done. This is our We Do Good Work slide. Our customers do some pretty amazing things. They go out into the field, they take surveys, they do census collection, they do report collection. They look for invasive species, they fight fires, they do asset inspections like you see up in the top right. They look at physical infrastructure, they record the status of it, and then they record that in real time digitally back into their ArcGIS system using our field operations apps. There's a lot of neat things that our customers do using our applications today. With that said, as kind of an overview for field operations, some of the themes that we're thinking about and looking at for 2019, as I mentioned, location tracking is a big one. One thing that we'll talk a lot more about in this session is our Windows 10 focus. Explorer is one of those apps that we're bringing to Windows 10, and we're kind of evaluating how that's doing and what the uptake is like and how many people are actually using Windows 10 on mobile devices. And we'll evaluate that and see how it goes and then move on from there. We also are working on better offline workflows. We'll talk a little bit about that later as well. That is making it easier to take your GIS data from ArcGIS and take that out into the field with you into places that don't have cellular or Wi-Fi connectivity. So we're improving those workflows. We're doing a lot of work in that area because that's what our customers have told us is important to them in these field operations workflows. So spending a lot of time and effort there. And then we're always kind of iteratively working on quality, working on usability, listening to customers, figuring out what's working, what's not working, and making improvements, making bug fixes, and really working on mobile device performance, making sure that the things that we build work well on the devices that our customers use. So with all that said, another big change in the last, couple months is user types and role-based licensing. How many people are familiar with these new user types? Have you seen those before? Most of the people. So if you haven't seen these, we went from kind of a level 1 viewer concept and level 2 can do everything else concept until this more granular user type approach where we have specific user types for specific workflows and things that they can do. One big impact for us in the field operations space is this field worker user type. And so it's not quite as expensive as that creator or GIS professional user type, but it still allows you to have some access to your mobile applications, get out in the field and get it done. So it's really for those field workers that need to use things like collector, survey, or workforce. Those are the apps that are included with that field worker user type. And it really enables that kind of editing, data collection thing while you're out in the field. I don't have Explorer explicitly listed here. I will mention that later, but Explorer is a free application that works with all of these user types. So we'll hit that again here in a little bit. That being said, that's kind of the intro. That's kind of like what we're thinking about. That's kind of how we're situating Explorer in context of the larger field operations story. Now it's time to actually talk about Explorer. So Explorer is meant to be your map viewer application on your mobile device. This is really intended to replace that old paper map book that you would throw in the back of the truck as you got ready to go out into the field. You'd throw it back there, you'd have it with you anytime you needed it to refer back to the things that you're getting ready to go do out in the field. This is kind of the modern digital version of that. This is not a editor application. This is not a competitor with Collector or something like that. This is really to take your GIS data with you into the field so that you can view attributes and attachments and pop-ups and navigate to and get to the things that you need to go do out in the field. So view your maps anywhere is kind of point number 1 with Explorer. Point number 2 is easily find field assets. We'll show you this here in a little bit, but we have added or included a thing called compass mode. And so you can tap on a feature that you're looking for out in the field and it will show you your blue dot. It will show you that feature that you've selected and it'll draw a line between the two. And it'll kind of give you the little cone showing you which way you're facing. So you can really just turn to face the thing, line up your line with it and walk towards it until you find the device or find the asset. It's a pretty handy tool for people trying to find things like meters that are hidden under brush out in the field or snow-covered signs or whatever it might be. It helps you find and get to your field assets while you're out there. And finally, the other big piece is creating and sharing notes while you're on the go. And so we refer to this as markup. And so being able to actually use a stylus like this on your Windows device and take a note and say the gate code is 4352 or whatever it might be, or take whatever notes. You might say, okay, I'm standing where the GIS information says the fire hydrant's supposed to be, but the fire hydrant's actually over there. I need to kind of circle that and make a note so that my GIS guy can go into the data in the GIS system and fix it at some point in the future.
Can it use the Bluetooth for higher accuracy?
So the question was, can it use Bluetooth for higher accuracy like Collector can? It can't at the moment, but that's something we've got on the roadmap for the future as something we're interested in doing.
So the way I understand that is if you're on Android and you have mock locations, you can improve the 5 to 7 meter accuracy, but if it can't, the biggest thing with Collector that does high accuracy is that location profile, so if you're getting correction services, it can't get down to that sub-foot, sub-meter.
Okay. Does anybody we have like most of the development team in the room. Does anybody want to comment on that? Look for the red badges over in this half of the room, and they're all the smart people.
Well, no, it's exclusively restricted to smart people, but no, she's right. I mean, we do have on the roadmap to do location profiles and be able to do like RTK corrections and stuff like that, but we just haven't gotten around to implementing it. Actually, it'd be interesting to hear after this, not to derail your guys' session, about the need for high accuracy and explore, like what the workflows are, and that really helps us get further.
Yeah, I think with finding field assets, that would be.
Yeah, just because of what you were talking about, right?
Yep.
If I don't have high accuracy, that's not going to help me that much.
For sure. For sure. Thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it. So moving on, I do want to talk about some of the common use cases of Explorer that we've been hearing from customers. What I've got here is kind of diagrammed out a little exercise where we've got some mounted police assets, we've got some resources in the field like a mobile unit, we've got a medical tent, we've got some people that are gathering and they need some help. And so I've got little pins over that to show that all of those are being tracked somehow by someone back into the GIS system. So we know these locations and we want these mounted policemen and the policemen on foot to know where all of these resources are. They want to know where the resources are. They want to know where the mobile units are, the mounted units, and where the protesters or people that need help are. And so that's kind of the first situation that I'm mentioning here is maintaining situational awareness in the field. These police officers can carry a mobile device with Explorer running on it, and as long as they have a data connection that's connected back to ArcGIS, then they're going to be getting near real-time updates in the field, as long as the web maps that they're looking at are configured for it. So they can be getting this situational picture of where are my assets, where are they moving, who is the closest person to help or respond, or where is the closest resource to direct people to based on my location right now. So that's kind of one common pattern that we've been hearing people asking for. The second one is accessing detailed GIS maps and data while on the go. So that gets back to that idea of being able to load your maps onto your device and have access to it at all time. And I'll explain a little bit more about that here in a minute. And 3, being able to provide maps and data to contractors or other third parties. I've got a question in the back.
In the first use case, how does the police know where the crowd is and moving?
So it's going to have to be reported somehow. So it could be somebody else on the field, like out in the field. It could be a drone monitoring the situation and people updating in real time the web map based on drone imagery or drone footage, live feeds. It could come in a number of different ways, but as long as it's being updated on that back end on that ArcGIS web map, the near real-time updates can come in to Explorer. And I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. And we will have time at the end for questions. So I'm not saying don't ask them. I'm just saying we will save some time at the end, and you can ask them then if you want to. So that first example kind of gets to your question of like, how is it being monitored? How is it being tracked? So as long as it's coming into ArcGIS, whether that's ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise, via some method, via somebody updating via desktop, via somebody updating via apps, you might have a tracker app out there tracking your police people. And so you might see them moving around on the map because their location is being updated via the tracker app, which is one of our new apps. You may have people just monitoring the situation and updating the web map in real time, saying, okay, there's an incident here or there's an incident there, and then it would show up on everybody's common picture that's looking at that web map. However those updates are getting into ArcGIS, you'll see it both on the back end for whoever's monitoring it in the office, and you'll see it out in the field for whoever has those mobile devices out in the field. So that's the maintaining situational awareness kind of pattern and workflow. The second one is being able to take your GIS data anywhere you go. And so the idea there is, what we've had from day one is we've had the ability to load these web maps. So as long as you have your connection into ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise, we will display that information for you on your mobile device. Kind of the place where we've been working a lot to bring up the functionality levels is in this second piece. And I have it called mobile map packages, but that really is just saying offline, being able to handle your data offline. So right now you would package up all the information that you want to take offline into a mobile map package. You would load it onto your device. There are a couple different ways to load it onto your device. And so through these two methods, through being connecting into the web maps, or using mobile map packages if you want to go offline, Explorer really helps you work with your maps, whether you're connected or disconnected today. And finally is the pattern where, I'm walking through in this slide how to get your data from, let's say, Pro, packaging up your mobile map package. So you would need Pro to package up and create one of these mobile map packages today. We'll go over some workflows later in the session about how you won't need Pro in the future. But today you do need Pro, create one of these mobile map packages. And the most seamless way to get it into your organization is to share it directly from Pro into ArcGIS Online or Enterprise. Once you've uploaded that mobile map package to Online or Enterprise, you can then sign in to Explorer, and you will see all the mobile map packages and offline data that's available to you, and you can download it to your device. Once you download it to your device, you can use it. You can search for assets. You can look at attachments, pop-ups, just like you were online, but it'll work completely offline without a data connection. And finally, kind of extending that concept is, let's say you want to take that mobile map package and make it not just available to people within your organization, but you want to be able to give that to somebody that you work with, a contractor, a third party, anybody else that might need that GIS information, but you don't necessarily want them inside your organization. In that scenario, you can distribute GIS data to them through an anonymous mobile map package. And so for an anonymous mobile map package, you do need the publisher extension. But what that allows you to do is give that to anybody, give that mobile map package to whoever you want, and as long as they have Explorer, they can use it without signing in to open that mobile map package and see the GIS information that you've shared with them. And so we've heard this use case quite a bit. One of the ones that comes to mind right away is, let's say you have crop data, you have people coming onto your farms, onto your agriculture fields, and you want them to have not last year's information, but you want them to have this year's information to know where the crops are, where they need to spray, those kind of things, because that's an inherently geographical concept. You could put together a mobile map package with this year's crop data, package it up anonymously using the publisher extension, and then give it to them however you want to give it to them. You can email it to them, you can send it to them via an FTP site, you can host it on a website, however you want to get that information to them. You get it to them, they load it up into the free version of Explorer that they can download from the Play Store or the iOS store, and load up that mobile map package, and it will show them where they should be spraying. It'll show them where this year's current crop locations are, all of the current information that you want to share with them, without you having to bring them into your ArcGIS organization and create a new account for them and all of that.
You thought about airdrop there?
Yeah, and so I moved on, unfortunately, but I had a big list there of tons of ways that you can get the file to them. Any way that you can get that file to them, AirDrop is one way, thumb drive is another way, FTP site, any way that you can get that file to them, they can use it however you want to get it to them. Yep. So with that being said, kind of how people use it, what it is, the intent behind it, I'm going to walk through some of the features of the app, kind of at a high level. And then once I'm done with that, Heather's going to actually pull it up and show it to you so you can kind of get a hands-on feel for what this thing actually looks like. So at the beginning, we want to talk a little bit about markup. So as I mentioned, while you're out in the field on your mobile device, you want to make a note for somebody back in the office, or even for somebody that's out in the field with you and say, hey, look at this thing, it's pretty interesting. You can create markup on your device, And then you can share that markup with them in a couple different ways. And so the top way, I'm showing the Android version right now. You have the same general options on iOS and Windows. But the first option, the top one there, is share markup. And so that will take the technical geometry of that markup, the arrow that you drew, the point that you dropped, the polygon that you created, and it will share all of that geometry in a markup layer with whoever you want to send it to. And so that'll pull up the share sheet or whatever sharing options you have on your device. So you could send them an email with essentially a markup layer in it. And whenever they get that email, they will tap on it. It will say, do you want to open this in Explorer? And they say yes. And so it will open their copy of Explorer and it will show your markup that you just made on their device. So that's pretty cool, pretty handy stuff. Another way is to share it to ArcGIS Online. So if you have a creator user type or higher, because in this situation, when you're sharing to ArcGIS Online, you need to be able to create an item on ArcGIS and share it with somebody else in your organization. You can do that. So that also shares all of the geometry, all of the technical details about what it is that you just created on your device, and it shares it with them in a new markup layer via ArcGIS Online. The third option is to just share a screenshot. Let's say you just are seeing that something's wrong and you want to get that note back to the person in the back office as quick as you can. You just share a screenshot, email it off to them or text it off to them, and they have the information and they can take action on it right away. So those are kind of the three ways that you can share markup from Explorer. What else can it do beyond creating and sharing markup? You can switch base maps. So it's something that I'm assuming a lot of the people in this room are probably GIS professionals. It's something that we take for granted every day. Being able to switch between base maps and include your own organizational base maps in the list of base maps that can be switched to is something that's pretty big for our target field worker users. They are not people that are that familiar with base maps and switching between a bunch of different base maps. So giving them the options and giving them some really nice maps that they can slide behind operational data is pretty key for field worker users. So we give you the option to provide and switch between base maps while on the go. Second, we allow you to use any bookmarks that may be part of the map already. So if you're creating web maps, if you're creating these mobile map packages, you can include bookmarks that bookmark to specific areas of interest that you may want your field workers, or your field workers may be telling you, hey, I want to be able to get back to this place quickly and easily just by tapping on my phone. So on this one, I have a couple different places called Big Meadows and Camp Hoover and Pinnacles. And so just with one tapping on one of those bookmarks, it'll center the map in that area and it will show me that area so I can take further action.
Use a pencil to create them. Can you create bookmarks?
Can you create bookmarks in Explorer? No. So yeah, so the question was, can you create bookmarks in Explorer? The answer is no. You're only viewing the bookmarks that are included in the map already.
Correct, yeah. The bookmarks, to add them would be sort of modifying that web map, and Explorer does not allow you to modify the web map.
Yeah, so it's kind of still a view-only thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm wondering what that pencil was for.
I believe she's asking what the pencil was for in the screenshot, and I believe it was for creating markup.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. So the next thing that we want to highlight that you can do in Explorer is search. And so you've got a couple different options here. If you're connected online and you start typing in the search box, it will do a point of interest search. And so it's using some back-end services to look for all the different points of interest that are in the area that you're looking for and return those for you. It will also, if you've configured layers for search, it will search for features within those layers. So if you're looking for asset, X324, you can just type in X324 and it will find that asset for you. You tap on it, it shows you where it is on the map, at which point you can then use the compass mode, walk to it. So search is both point of interest and feature search. Obviously I see a question in the back.
So if you have, say, 10 field workers, one of them makes a notation, how quickly will the other 9 see it on their maps, if at all?
Okay, so the question was, you have 10 field workers, one of them makes a notation on their map. How quickly will the other field workers see that notation? And so the way this works is all of those notes are on your local device. And so the real answer is until you share it with somebody and somebody includes it in the web map that everybody's looking at, nobody's going to see it. You're going to be the only one that sees it until you share it. Until you explicitly share it and then action is taken and people either load it into their device or the web map is updated and the web map is pushed out to their devices.
So it's asynchronous.
It's asynchronous. Yep. So the next thing that we want to talk about is the ability to view layers. So you can see all the layers that are in your map and turn them on and off. Again, as GIS people, this is basic functionality. We take it for granted. People out in the field workers, this sometimes actually confuses them, but we give them the power and the option to be able to turn off layers if there's too much going on the map at one given time. So they can turn off layers, turn off the ones that they don't want to see, turn on the ones they do want to see. One thing you'll notice here is that I've got different markup layers. So I've got that one markup layer on my device, and then I've got a shared markup layer that somebody has shared with me. And I can see both of those, and I can toggle those on and off as well. We also, in Explorer, provide a measure tool. So if you want to see how far it is from here to there, or you want to see what a given distance is between 2 points, or you want to see a path through a city, which I have here kind of tapped through, and we can see at the bottom it says distance, 3.4 miles. You can do that. It also does aerial measurements. So if you want to see the size of a field, you want to see how many hectares, you can do that in Explorer as well. So just a little bit of ability to do some quick measurements while you're out and about.
Is the little GPS symbol there, is that where you can like drop a point on your location and walk and then drop another point like measure?
So the question was kind of how that works and if the GPS tool is used. The GPS tool isn't used. It's really a manual tapping of I want to drop a point here, I want to drop a point here, I want to drop a point here. How far is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you use that GPS tool, it's dropping your location, right?
The GPS tool doesn't drop a location. You have to be in measure mode, and in measure mode, you would have to go in and manually say add a point.
Oh, okay. It had the tool up there on the toolbar and measured.
Okay. Okay.
By yourself.
Yeah, I would encourage you to play with it. It's a pretty simple tool to use. You'll figure it out quickly. Finally is that compass mode that I was talking about. That's the ability to take your blue dot, which is there in the middle of the map, takes a point where I dropped at one of my favorite restaurants, and tell me what direction is that restaurant from where I'm standing right now, and how far is it? And you can kind of see southeast 280 feet. It'll tell you the distance and the direction to that asset that you want to find your way to. One of the last features that I do want to talk about, I spent some time earlier talking about the ability to integrate between applications. If you build your own applications and you want to be able to use Explorer, launch Explorer and show the map and show users where that particular thing is, this is kind of how you would do that. So this is what we call a URL scheme. And so if you build your own application, you can invoke Explorer via this URL scheme. You call out to Explorer, you say, hey, start Explorer with some parameters, right? And so you can define a few things. You can say which web map or mobile map package should be opened when we open up Explorer, right? If you don't have it on your device, download it first and then open it. So you can define that as an app developer or a creator. You can define where to center the map. So let's say there's a particular coordinate that you want the map to be centered on whenever the map opens. You can define that. You can also, I don't need to necessarily go through all of these, but you will see that there are some parameters that you can use. These are well documented. We have examples out on our help site. So if this is something that interests you, being able to kind of use your application and use Explorer as the mobile map viewer for your users when they're out in the field, that is something we enable through this URL scheme. So definitely take note of that. Let us know if you have any questions on it. With that said, that's kind of the overview of the features. I'm going to turn it over to Heather. Heather, can you show us some of this stuff?
I can. So yeah, that's what I'll do this morning is just reinforce some of those key features that Scott was mentioning. And let's move me over to, and I'm going to show it to you on the Windows platform. So what you're looking at here is Explorer running on my Surface Go, which is a Windows 10 touch device. And as Scott mentioned, we're in beta right now, and we've got a lot of features in there, and we're in a great place to show you Explorer basics. But we're also still finishing up some work and fine-tuning our workflow. So we'd love to hear from you. And so if you get an opportunity to download and use Explorer on Windows, we'd love to hear about it. When you first open Explorer, you're brought to what we call the Browse view. So this is your one-stop shop for all the maps that you have access to. These are maps that you may have created yourself, or maps that have been authored by others and shared with you either through groups or through your organization. And to help you organize that, we have them in different sections. So at the top, you'll notice that I have my favorites, those maps that I want easy access to. I don't want to fumble around to find them. They're easily accessible to me in this favorite section. If I had authored my own maps, I would have a My Maps section, but I'm currently signed into Explorer as a viewer role, a viewer type. I'm a city worker, and so I don't have those maps myself, so I don't see that section. We've also given you access to this Living Atlas content, which is the beautiful curated content that you usually see in the plenaries and in lots of our demos. It's a great place to start if you don't already have maps yourself, and it's also a great place to get inspired for what's possible with visualization and assets in your map. As Scott mentioned, you can view either connected web maps or offline maps. You can tell the difference in the map. That newspaper map is a connected map. It's got the 3 ellipses. But we also have those offline maps. Submarine cables is an example of one. And I can tell because it's got a download option. And to download that to my device, I just simply tap that button and wait for it to finish. Once the map has been downloaded, it's got everything we need in that map. It's got whatever you've authored in there, whether it's base maps, operational layers, locators, and you're free to disconnect from your network and use the map for your work. I'm actually going to use a connected web map, and I'm going to search in my browse view here for my alternative fuels map here. And once it loads, what you'll see is I've got some alternative fuel station data for Palm Springs and surrounding area. So the red icons there as an example are electric charge stations, blue are natural gas, et cetera. But what strikes me about this view, and perhaps you guys, is that the real estate associated with the map is huge. You basically are seeing a map on the screen, and that's intentional. We want you to be at one with your data and not be interrupted by the tools that may be on the screen. You'll notice the floating toolbar on the right-hand side has the most commonly used tools available by default, but all I have to do is tap that down arrow and I get the full set of tools that you're familiar with the other platforms. And I'll just I'll mention, if you're comfortable with Explorer on iOS or Android, our intention here is that you should feel comfortable in Explorer Windows as well. You should be able to find what you need to, but we also want to take advantage and honor the patterns that are on the different platforms of choice. So hopefully we are striking a nice balance there. So with the tools, I'm going to show you some of the tools that Scott had talked about. Oh, there we go with the base maps tool. This panel should open and show you all the base maps. Sometimes when I leave it sitting there, it doesn't hydrate, but anyway, so we'll follow up on that after. But I'm just going to choose the imagery base map to show you. I can tap that GPS button. So you were asking about the GPS button earlier, and the single tap will take me right to my location. And now I can start investigating areas around the map. I've got a parcel here. I'm going to tap on that, and the pop-up that you have authored or that the author of the web map has created, either in Pro or in Online, is available to you in Explorer. I can take a look at all the fields. I also happen to have some attachments associated with this feature. This one is an image, and I also have a movie, a flyover of this particular parcel. That should come up here in a second. So all those things that you know and expect from the platform are available to you in Explorer. I'm going to tap on one of the electric charge stations. You'll notice this pop-up looks a little bit different. That's because I've authored a custom pop-up description in my map, and I've chosen different HTML styling techniques to highlight particular fields that I want to become known to the folks that are using the map in the field. I'll also mention that last year's opened is actually a calculated value from an arcade expression. So we will support all of those things as well. If I tap the GPS button twice here, what you'll notice is I went into compass mode. And so you see, that might actually be hard to see. I'm going to flip back. Oh, that's lovely. To the light gray canvas. Oh, there we go. Sorry. See, they tell you not to do anything out of the ordinary when you're doing your stuff, and then you do things out of the ordinary. All right, so once this pop-up comes up, I will tap the GPS button twice, and you can see I now have that red line that's tethered from my location to that particular asset that I want to navigate to. And so now as I move around, my tablet is going to indicate which way I need to go to get to that asset. So that's important, as you guys were mentioning, if your assets are maybe underground or difficult to get to otherwise, it's a nice way to navigate to those. All right, so, and I should mention too that works whether you drop a pin with a search result or like here as I've selected a feature in the map. All right, I'm going to zoom out a bit, and you can see I'm using the touch gestures on the Surface Go, but if I was more comfortable with working with a mouse and a keyboard, I can also take advantage of these plus and minus signs that we have for navigating the map. If I had a keyboard, which I don't, I could press Shift and draw a bounding box and automatically zoom. And as Scott mentioned, we also have support for the stylus. So our intention here on the Windows platform is to support you in whatever way you work day to day. I do see the question in the back, but I'm looking, we may be tight on time. Yeah. So if you don't mind, we'll hold it to the end, and hopefully we have enough time to address everything. So for today, my task is to find some locations, a new location to put a new bank of electric charging stations. And for that, I've got some data in my map that is going to help me figure that out. I've got some drive time polygons, so I can use the layers tool to turn particular layers on and off. And these drive time polygons are indicating that pretty much all of Palm Springs is covered within 10-minute drive time of a electric charging station. So I'm going to take a look at the 5-minute. Likewise, that's got pretty good coverage. But with my 2-minute drive time polygon, I'm starting to see some patterns in areas I might want to focus on. The author of the map also created some bookmarks for me to focus on. So a proposed Palm Springs East area, I'm going to zoom to that with the bookmarks tool. You can see this area is just south of the airport. And I'm also going to use the search tool to look for a particular asset, a particular parcel that they want me to focus on for my evaluation. And you can see with that search, I get the asset, and that's because the author of the map configured the web map in such a way that you can search for a particular field on a layer in the map. So they've set it up to search on parcel identifier. And I'm going to tempt the gods here and flip back over to the base maps tool. And we'll just zoom in here. So I can also use the measure tool. So while I'm out and doing my investigation, I'm going to use the measure tool to look at this particular area. I think that this is going to be a good candidate for adding some charge stations. This happens to be a shuttle service that's right beside me. And you'll notice this new experience on the measure if you're currently an Explorer user. And this is something that we already have in Collector and has been really well regarded in that light. Folks like that they can start to measure without having their meaty fingers in the way while they're trying to divine the area that they want to measure. So as I approach, yeah, you can.
Can you guys see that little target reticle that she's seeing?
Yeah.
You can. Okay, good. Sorry, I didn't mention that. As I approach the final vertex there, you can see we automatically close the shape. We've calculated the area as well as the perimeter. All right, so I'm feeling good about that particular area, and I want to share this information with my teammate who's going to come and do some more fine-grained evaluation of the area. So I'm going to do some markup to identify the area that I like about this parcel. So I'm going to use my stylus. As we said, we've got some nice support for those tools that you like to use. Let's say I don't like this particular area, so I'm going to give it a big X. And this maybe is a nice spot as well. And what's nice about using the stylus is it's a nice way to make some pretty clean markup and share that. If I had made some mistakes here, we also support, just using the eraser on the back of the stylus. I'm going to share this. So when I tap the share sheet, we have the option to send just a screenshot if that's going to do the trick for today. But today I want to share the actual markup file. And I'm going to do this through email and send this to my teammate. Share markup. And my teammate happens to be me, myself, and I. So I will send that over. And I'm going to elegantly switch over here. Let me know, let's see when you can see I'm going to switch over to Explorer on the iOS platform, and I'm actually showing my Mail app. And when I tap on that markup feature, I'm brought to this sheet where I have the option of what to choose to open up in Explorer. I'm going to choose Explorer here, and when the markup is shared, I get to import that markup from my teammate as a new markup layer. I'll accept, and I'm taken right to the extent of that markup on the map. And so it's a nice way to obviously share that content across, and it works across the different platforms. You'll see Windows, Explorer, Android. It's agnostic to the platform. The one thing I do want to mention while I'm in here is another new feature that's coming to Explorer that Scott mentioned was the ability to show tracks. So I'm going to zoom to my location, and because I have Tracker installed on this device, I will have the ability to just simply go to the Layers tool and turn on my tracks. You can see I have been not traveling in a straight line, but this is something that's coming to all of our field apps in the future. So I'll pass it back to you.
Cool. Good stuff, Heather. Thank you. Okay, so back to slideware. Let's talk about what's new, kind of the point of this session, right? So what's new in Explorer? The first one that we're going to talk about is what Heather was just showing you. She was showing you Windows Explorer. And so that is brand new. That's something we've been working on over the last few months, something that we've been hearing strong demand for, we've been seeing strong support for in our betas, which have up until this point been closed. And so you've had to contact us, get whitelisted to join the beta on the Microsoft Store. Well, one of the new things is we've gone public. So right before Dev Summit, we asked for some help from Clippy to make this a public beta, and so Clippy helped us. And so if you go into the Microsoft Store, you just need to search for Explorer for ArcGIS, and you can download the Windows beta and start playing with it on your Windows devices. So that's one of our new things recently. Let's see another new thing. Another new thing is this layer refresh interval support. So this really enables that workflow that I was talking about situational awareness, being able to see what's going on out in the field. Until recently, so this is something we're working on now, and it will be out before our users conference, which is like June, July timeframe. when you access a web map, you're accessing essentially a static web map. And so Explorer hasn't been able to take advantage of this layer refresh interval feature. So what a web map author can do is they can say on a particular layer, refresh this layer every so often. You can say every minute, every 10 minutes, every 60 minutes, whatever you want it to be. And so that layer will then tell the clients, whoever's looking at that layer, hey, like ask for new information every so often, right? And so up until now, Explorer has not supported layer refresh interval, and coming soon we will support layer refresh interval. And so it really helps that piece in the diagram earlier, going from ArcGIS to your people out in the field, it helps push the latest information out to them. And so support for the layer refresh interval is coming soon. Let's see another new thing. Another new thing is user types. And so those are new as of just a couple months ago. I do want to emphasize the fact that all user types can use Explorer in ArcGIS Online or Enterprise. So it's not something you have to buy or be licensed for. You just sign in and you can start using the maps that are within your organization. The other piece to that is what I talked about earlier. There is also the ability to use Explorer without signing in at all. So if you don't need to use private information inside an ArcGIS organization, you can just download the Explorer app and then use those. I believe some Living Atlas layers are available for free. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So you can use those Living Atlas layers for free, or you can load up one of those mobile map packages that have been shared with you from somebody that has the publisher extension and has created an anonymous mobile map package. Another new thing is something that we've been working hard on over the last year or so, and that's bringing Android in line with iOS in terms of feature parity in Explorer. And so for a while, there was a difference. If you had the iOS version of Explorer, you had these features. If you had the Android version, you had these features. Well, within the last 6 months, we brought those into parity. And so now if you have the Android version or the iOS version, you've got the same features and you can do the same things. The goal is to keep those things in line going forward, as well as keeping Windows in line with that as well. So if you've got Explorer, you've got Explorer. You don't have to say, well, which one do you have, or which one do I have? So this is a good thing for our users. Another thing that I mentioned early on that is going to be coming soon is offline improvements. So as I mentioned kind of earlier in the presentation, we talked about using Pro to create these mobile map packages, which you can then load into ArcGIS Online or Enterprise, and then you can bring into Explorer. Well, that involves Pro in that workflow, and that is hard for some field operations groups. Not everybody has Pro expertise or experience, and so we've been working across the platform to make this story better and easier for our users. So coming soon are these things called offline areas. You'll also hear them called pre-planned areas. And so if you're using ArcGIS Online and you have a web map and you want to make that web map available for offline use, you can go into the settings of that web map, make it available for offline use, and then you have some new tools available to you, which are what I'm showing here in this screenshot. I know it's a little washed out, but what I'm doing is I'm drawing boxes around areas in that web map and saying, make this an area that is available for my mobile users to take offline with them. So we know that maybe some of these areas are places with bad connectivity. We know our mobile users won't have the ability to use their online connectivity while they're there. So bundle up that section of the map and make it available as, I've got the blue one called airport. So package up the airport area and make it available as a downloadable file. On the back end, it's very similar to a mobile map package, but you don't need to know that. You just need to draw the box, give it some information about what layers need to be included, how often does that information change, so how often should that thing be recreated, and then everything is just kind of handled on the back end. And these offline areas are created in ArcGIS, and your mobile user will just kind of open up Explorer, they will see the web map, and they will see that the web map has some offline areas associated with it, and they will tap the ones that they want to take offline with them as they're getting ready to go out into the field. So it's an improvement to that offline workflow. Takes Pro out of the picture.
And this is going to be implemented?
This is going to be in that pre-UC June, July timeframe.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, I mean, it's in ArcGIS online today. So you can configure these areas
I
today.
know the new collector works with it brilliantly.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's coming into Explorer in that kind of June, July timeframe.
Is it going to be the same in like collector that once you define offline areas, you have to download them, or are you going to have the choice to whether you would like to use it online or offline?
So the question was, will you have the choice to be able to use it online or offline? So Heather's going to show this here in a minute. So she's going to show these pre-planned areas. And so you'll see the fact that the web map exists there and that it has some offline areas. And so you can download those offline areas and take them down and open them separately. I believe you can also open the web map itself, correct?
Actually, you need to take the thing offline. I can actually show you the demo. It's the same, yes, and actually we build on the same platform, and that is the tool that we have exposed in Explorer. But Brent, I don't know if you have any follow-on to that.
I guess my only comment would be it's the same experience that you see in
Yeah.
Collector Aurora today. So if you're playing around with that, it'll be identical.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. And that is a nice thing about how we organize, how we build the field operations team, is that we are a team and we work together, and those portions that we share, you'll recognize from the other applications. All right, so I will quickly. Yeah, I see we're
Give us just a few minutes. We'll finish up the slides and let Heather, give her some time to do her demo.
Yeah, I think is it 11:30 that we're?
Yeah, we're done at 11:30.
All right, so this will be a nice tight demo of offline areas. So what we're looking at is a development build of Explorer on iOS that has this offline capability that's coming at the UC timeframe. You can see from the demo. The first demo that I gave, you'll recognize that cloud with the download button. That is for a mobile map package. But what we're looking at or what we want to look at is the map at the top with the arrow here, and this indicates that there have been configured offline areas for this map. So underneath the map areas section, you can see these are the map areas that have been configured in the web map. And what's nice about this is it optimizes the workflow. All that hard work of determining what areas to identify what layers to take offline has been done by somebody else. The work to package it up has already been done by the server, and you're simply just downloading a file to your device. There is that possibility that maybe the area that you need has not been already pre-configured, and so just like in the collector workflow, you have the ability to define the area that you want to take offline, and this is what we call the on-demand workflow. In this user interface, you have access to your bookmarks. If that's going to help you figure out the area that you want to take offline, you can dictate that. You can also decide the level of detail if you don't want to go to the room level and you want to instead go to rooms, and you just initiate the download, and then it will be downloaded to your device. And then once these are downloaded, you could use these like any other maps that you've had downloaded in Explorer. So yeah, so in summary, demo 1, I showed the current offline workflow with Explorer today, which is through the mobile map package. And then with this demonstration, we showed both the pre-planned areas as well as the on-demand offline workflow.
Cool.
Does this download work the same way that the current collector works, where it's taking the most recent version of the data, or is it just the data that was prepackaged by the analyst ahead of time?
So there's a lot to unpack in that question. So the question is, how does this work? I think what you're referring to is are you referring to the on-demand workflow? Mm-hmm. Yes, so it would be the same as what it is with Explorer. If you've exposed your data to go offline and it's pointing at a version, it's going to be taking that data offline and bringing that to your device. As that version gets updated, it will take it offline. As is updated in the back office.
So it will package up what's there right now. So you say, I'm getting ready to go offline. I have this area that I want to take offline with me right now. And so it will pull the latest version of that web map offline for me to use right now. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I should state here, because maybe the next logical question is, how does pre-planned work? Pre-planned, you package the data, and at that point in time, it reflects exactly what the data looks like. And then at some scheduled interval, it gets updated. So the author of the map, the author of the pre-planned areas defines that interval and that it gets the snapshot. But independent of what your particular snapshot, you can sync and get the latest as soon as you get it down to your device. Does that make sense?
Cool. So this slide is showing that second thing that she showed. You want to take something offline right now. I don't want to necessarily use one of those things that somebody made for me in the back office. I just, from my device, want to take a bit of information offline with me right now. That's on demand. And so that was the second thing that she showed, the thing with the little target box. It's in Collector today, so if you're familiar with how it works in Collector, it's going to be same experience, similar experience.
You can see your data there, right, in that screen.
Correct.
All you can see is a base map.
Yeah, and that's just a function of me being bad at screenshots.
Oh, but like if you had data, it would show up.
Yeah, absolutely. So you would see your feature information here. This target box is showing you what area you're going to take offline. And so that helps you kind of move the map around behind it to figure out, okay, which features do I actually want to take offline with me? Once you've got that positioned correctly over the features that you want to take offline, you say download the area, everything gets packaged up and pushed down to your
Can I
device.
search for a feature there? Or?
In this, no. But once you get that area offline and it's on your device, you can search for features, you can search for all the things that you want to look for, just like you would if you were using it online or using a mobile map package. At that point, it's on your device and
I
searchable.
want to take my offline area based on the search. I want to search for an asset and then take the area offline around that asset. I don't think you can do that.
Yeah, correct. You cannot do that, but that's an interesting use case. What you can do is, use the bookmarks if that happened to already map to something. The layers tool would take you to the extent of the layer, but we'd like.
Open the map up first, search it while it's online, find the area you want, and then go back and take it offline.
Yes, you could. I'm just wondering whether or not in that tool it would reflect that extent, but possibly yes.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So what Jeff is
I'm not saying it would have the exact extent.
Yeah.
Right? But what is the exact extent? You just want to know what the feature is.
Yeah.
If you get a rough idea, then you can go back. You can be eyeing it up, but at least you have the ability to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Just to answer for the crowd that in that case, if you were looking for that, you could go back to your web map, search for that asset, and then know where it is, and then come into the on-demand workflow.
I thought when you're on demand, you can't see it connected at the same time.
You cannot, but if you have, yeah, that's a good point. Currently, you cannot. So yeah, that's therein lies the rub. Is that?
Yeah. Yeah, currently, in the way it will be implemented, first, you will kind of need to know the general area that you want to take offline. We can look at maybe searching for specific features and then taking the area around that and maybe a future release, but right now, that's not how it's going to work on day one, whenever we bring this out.
Yeah, I'll do more investigation and get a better answer for you.
Yeah.
All right.
I think all we've got left, we did the demo. Thank you, Heather. Looked wonderful. Next thing we want to finish off on is roadmap. When does this stuff come out? Let me just get through this real quick. We have 3 minutes. Yep. So we are focused on Windows. So we're doing a number of Windows betas. One just came out, the one that I said go out to the Microsoft Store and Clippy helped us with. That's beta 1. We're going to have some more stuff coming out to kind of round out that functionality in the Windows version. And then we're going to have updates on all versions, Windows, iOS, and Android, that bring these offline functionality pieces, kind of bring everything to kind of feature parity. So everything that you just saw will be in those releases. So with that being said, I believe that's the end. Before you get out of here, please take our survey on the app. Let us know how we did. It's in the Esri Events app. Download that, find this session, give us feedback. We do see that. We do look at that. Please let us know how we did. With that said, that's the end of our time. We have 2 minutes left, so happy to take 2 full minutes worth of questions. So I saw one right here.